The preceding program was brought to you in part by Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. It's actually tax night tonight on the Pete Mezzetti Show, and to talk about everything taxing in the state of Connecticut is my buddy, Commissioner Mark Boughton.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm great. I'm great.
What's
Happy New Year and all that stuff.
Happy New Year as well. It's been a while.
Yeah. It has, right? It's about a year. Every about a year or so.
About a year
and a month is when I come in
exactly.
to tell everybody what's new and to share some thoughts with you about the direction of the state of Connecticut.
Exactly.
So great to be here.
Thanks for coming down. So what's new?
Well, you know, we get tax-wise, we're doing a lot of stuff as it relates to the One Big Beautiful Bill. We get a lot of questions from taxpayers about how does that impact their Connecticut taxes and how does that work and things like this. And then, of course, on the infrastructure side, we've had to adjust to the new administration and what their priorities are and what they're looking to do. And we are making some moves there, and we've starting to develop some, I think, pretty solid relationships. And a lot of these things are driven by relationships, right? In terms of being able to bring more federal dollars back to Connecticut for the state's roads, bridges, highways, trains, things like that. So all good stuff is happening. It's been a kind of a crazy winter weather last few weeks, let's hope we don't have any more. But other than that, we just keep grinding along.
Cool. Now, how is the One Big Beautiful Bill going to affect the state of Connecticut?
Well, with the exception of without getting overly complicated to really bore, I don't want to bore you to death, but basically it's like, it works like this. So Connecticut is not directly coupled to changes that are made at the federal level. In other words, our tax system is separate from the federal level. And if we want to be part of it, then we usually have to opt in, with the exception of some key areas. So for example, there is the R&D tax credits for the corporate returns that have been put through by the Trump administration. Those tax credits would cost us about $150 million. And so the legislature is going to have to make a decision whether they think it's worth it to do that or not, right? To what we call couple or decouple. So right now we're coupled, we're tied to that one provision, and if we decouple, we'll have to take a affirmative vote by the legislature saying, hey, we don't want to do that, we can't afford that kind of investment. The federal government can, though, of course. So there's that going on, but I think what people do get confused about are the really flashy things that are a part of the OBB. So tax on tips. Does that apply to your Connecticut return? Well, no, it doesn't, and I'll explain why. Tax on overtime, not having to pay tax on the overtime, does not apply to your Connecticut return. But keep in mind, you're paying far less in your Connecticut return than you are in your federal return, right?
Yes.
And so the reason for that is that there's what we call above the line and below the line. So generally, we take the above the line adjusted gross income, and then you move that to your Connecticut return, and we don't have any deductions, right? So you just, that's it, and then there's a formula, and it spits out how much we owe you back for a refund, and how much you have to pay. So that's generally how it's done. So all these changes that you read about in the federal are done what's called below the line. They're done on the federal return only. So you can deduct your taxes on tips, for example. You won't be taxed on them up to $25,000, I think it is, on below the line, but that will not show up in your adjusted gross income. The only thing that's deducted out of your AGI off your pay is, let's say you're contributing to a retirement fund, pre-tax 457, something like that. We don't have a lot of deductions there, so you take your adjusted gross income, you put it on your Connecticut return, and then everything else comes from the federal return. But as I mentioned, proportionally, you're paying a lot more to the feds than you are to the state of Connecticut. So it does make a difference. But look, I applaud Congress and the president for trying something different, something new. And it's not, I don't think you can argue against not taxing tips and not taxing overtime pay. There are some income limitations on that, but I think it's probably a good thing. There's also a good thing about being allowed to. When I was growing up, my first car loan, I remembered you could deduct your interest on your car loan.
Okay.
Right? So they put that back in. Again, it's capped at certain income levels. And I think there's a rule in there about it has to be at least 50, the car has to be 50% American parts or made in America. So like you could have a Kia or the Hyundai factory that's down in Georgia. If it's made there, then you can take that deduction if you qualify on the income guidelines. So that was always great. You know, I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. Those are things I think that hit the people that are hurting the most, whether it's Connecticut or across the country, because we have a lot of programs for folks that are struggling. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying we can't do more. Of course we can. And of course, if you're wealthy, you got enough accountants and lawyers to make sure that you don't ever pay taxes, or you pay you have the minimum tax exposure, right?
Exactly.
So it's the people in the middle that are really struggling and that are really hurting. Those people are struggling to fill up their gas tank, to pay their oil bill, to do all those things, and those kinds of programs really help. So what did Connecticut do? Well, last year we implemented one of the highest earned income tax credits you can now take on your return. It's 40% of the federal level. Here's the key thing, Pete.
Go for it.
It's earned.
Right.
You gotta have a job.
Yeah.
If you don't have a job, you don't get to earn it. So you get to earn that income tax credit, and that comes off of above the line, right? And when you file your Connecticut return, and you're able to save a significant amount of money on your Connecticut taxes. What people need to know between that and between the cuts we made in 23 for the 24 tax year, about 40%, depends on the year, of the people in Connecticut are not paying an income tax. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So we're trying to hit that middle stretch there of people that really need the support right now with all of the inflationary pressures on their homes.
Wow.
That was a lot, wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. Now, I saw over the weekend, I was watching the news, and it wasn't weather related. You had a press conference with the governor. We did.
We did one down at Bridgeport at Housatonic Valley Community College. I think it's Valley Community College, or Housatonic Community College. And the point of the press conference was to talk about what's the federal system look like, what's the state system. And the fact of the matter is that for many people, we actually owe you a refund, and we want to get that check in your hands. But sometimes if you don't file, we can't, right? Because people are afraid, well, I don't want to file, I might owe money. Well, most times, 40% of the time, we're going to owe you money. So you might want to think about doing that. But we also had we have some funny questions like, what about the elimination of the penny? What does that do? Right? So how does that impact your collections? Well, we've already round up anyway, so we were way ahead of that years ago. You don't file your return to the penny anymore. But there were kind of questions like that, and also just a general discussion about what if I can't afford an accountant or a tax preparer. What can I do? Well, you can go to the VITA program. There's one in the area here that they're retired accountants and folks like that. They'll do your taxes with you.
Really?
You have to make an appointment. Yep, just look it up. Call 211, and they'll be able to tell you where that one is in your area. The United Way is doing a lot of outreach, and AARP, ton of work they do in helping our seniors fill out their taxes, free of charge. So you just got to make an appointment. It doesn't mean you're going to get it done tomorrow. No. But you might get an appointment for March or for, first.
April.
Right. And it'll get done, and you'll have a professional sitting next to you kind of walk you through it.
And they'll get it done for tax day, which is April 15th.
April 15th. Now, the good news, too, is that if about 97% of the people who file here in Connecticut pay or file electronically. So maybe they use TurboTax. Maybe they just go on and use MyConnect, our system. We don't charge for that. Obviously, that's free. Or one of H&R Block or one of the other systems that's out there. They're linked into our system. Like Intuit is linked into us at the state. Really? So you file, it gets dumped into us, and we can get you a return, your refund, 3 days, 72 hours.
Really?
Money's back in your account. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you file on paper, and about 4% of the people still like to file on paper, it's 6 weeks. Why? Because I got to have somebody get the mail, open the mail, file the mail, and we have a special sorting machine. I watch it every year. Sorts everything out. Sometimes people write handwritten letters in there, so we have to respond to every one of those. It can take a while. The other thing people should be aware of is we do have a very robust fraud system. And people get, if say their return doesn't come back in 3 days, their refund doesn't come back in 3 days. They get upset, call me up yelling. A lot of times we'll hold up the payment because our fraud system has determined that there's something strange about the filing.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that you're committing fraud.
Right.
It could be that somebody across the state is using your social security number,
right,
or is filing a return in your name, and we don't want to send your money to them.
To somebody else.
Right. We want to make sure your money goes to yours. So we always tell people, stay patient. We're working on it. We know you didn't do any fraud, because if you call us, you probably didn't.
Right.
And we'll get your refund as soon as we can make sure that nobody else is trying to cut into your money. And most people understand that.
So you're not sitting in your office and opening mail and...
Actually, sometimes we do.
Really?
That does go on. Yeah, we have a special sorting machine. It's fascinating to watch it take the mail through, separates it automatically, puts checks here, puts the return here. We used to hire about 15 people from the Hartford area that would come in on a part-time basis, and they would sit there and just open envelopes all day. We stopped doing that about 2 years ago once we punched through that 90% of electronic returns, and now we're up to about 96, 97%. But that's still about 30,000 returns.
Holy
Handwritten
cow.
returns. That's a lot.
Holy cow.
A lot of paper.
Now, what happens if people don't file their income tax and they don't get their money? Where's all the money go? Back into the...
It stays in the general fund.
Okay.
And so, like, I don't get appropriated a tranche of money that then we give out in refunds, because we never know what that's going to be.
Right.
Right. So it stays in the general fund. And then we do have a program where if you never filed, and it's your first time, right, that you've had something, maybe you owed us and you didn't pay, you can go in and it's basically like a grace program where you can pay, get current, not pay penalty, not pay interest, and get back on good graces. So, because we really, contrary to popular belief, unlike other not other state agencies, but like you hear the horror stories across the country, right?
Yes.
We don't do that. We're not going to throw you out of your house. We're not going to jump into your bank account unless we've tried and exhausted every way possible to get you to pay. And at that point, you left it. Yeah, you maybe too. That's right. And if you get out, we put you on a payment plan. We do everything we can to try to get people, and then we help them. We're like, oh no, we have live operators. You can call us at our help center, and we're able to sit there and walk you through your problem, particularly with the software. Sometimes people it's confusing, and sometimes people need to do that. I actually will do some answering of the phones a little bit, probably in March. I go downstairs and I spend an hour or two answering phones from taxpayers.
Really?
And answer their questions. Yeah. And hey, where's my refund check? Well, let me check.
Hold on, let me check.
I do all that stuff. Yeah. And the reason for that, for me personally, is I never want to ask a employee to do something that I personally wouldn't do.
Right.
Right. So
exactly.
I ask you to answer the phones. Live operator, no AI, no recordings, no press 1, press 2, press 5. Then I'm going to sit there and do it myself.
Now, how many operators do you have in the call center?
Generally, we run about, on any given time, like it scales up as we get busier. So right now it's probably 5 to 7.
Okay.
And then by end of March, we bring in extra people. You may get 15 to 20.
Okay.
So, and then there's people behind them. So like you call me up and ask me about your refund, I can automatically route it to somebody who's right there. And then they'll write it back to me and I'll say, okay, Pete, we got your stuff on April 4th, and it looks like your check went out on the 7th, and let me know in 2 days if you don't get it. We can do that. And by the way, just so people know, we take notes. Every call we get like that, we have a note in the file about it.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
so
you have
I
to,
can,
just in case something happens.
And I can look in. So again, I'm not picking on you people. You call me up and go, hey, Mark, nobody ever called me back, or I called and they hung up on me or whatever. I can go and look up your account and say, well, now, Mr. Mezzetti, you didn't, you didn't stay on the phone. You did disconnect, or, geez, we called you back on this day and this day and this day, and nobody answered. So we've been trying to get a hold of you. So it's good because it gives people a sense of connectivity to the office and some confidence that we take them serious and we're not just, goofing around with them. And we don't outsource our call center. Those are Connecticut residents that most of them live in the greater Hartford area, but they come to work at 450 Columbus every day.
Oh, so you're on the grounds of the Capitol.
No. We're on Columbus Avenue, which is about a mile and a half from the Capitol building.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got 5 floors, approximately 600 employees, depending on the day of the week. And
wow.
yeah, we're busy.
You guys are. Andy Atkim,
And we got Kim. Kim Times is awesome.
She is.
We love Kim.
I've never met her, but she's always very.
I'm lucky.
She's always very nice to me when I email.
Yeah.
Hey, the commissioner's got to come on. I can make that happen.
Yes, she can. She says go, I go.
Exactly. She says go see Pete Mezzetti. You say okay.
I'm in.
You say okay.
The next time we gotta do this in July, though, so I can hang out at Water's Edge after.
We could do that.
Okay, done.
We'll do it after tax season.
There you go.
We'll do.
I'll give you a report.
We'll do it before, and then we'll do it after.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about your background. I know your background,
Sure.
but for everybody who doesn't know your background,
Yeah. So
who were you?
For the first 14 years of my life, I taught high school. I taught social studies at Danbury High School.
I didn't know that.
Yep. I ran for the state legislature in 1998. I served a city I grew up in, Danbury, from 1998 to 2001. I got elected mayor in 2001 at Danbury. I was there for 20 years, 10 terms. All during that time, I've always been very friendly with Governor Lamont, and I have been friends, and we are friends today. And we'd always joke around. They'd say, "Well, come work for me. Come work." I'm like, no, I'm doing my own thing. I'm having a good time. I'm not done yet doing what I'm doing here. But he finally pinned me down, and I said, "Well, let me think about it." And at that time, I just won my 10th term, and I started to think that it's not healthy for a community to have a leader for more than 20 years, right? I just think you got to change things over. You got to have a new set of eyes looking at things. Let them bring in another auditor. Let them get different department heads. Try to do things a little bit better, a little bit differently, and I don't have a problem with that. So I said, it's probably a good time for me to pass the community off to somebody else, and so that's when I left and went to work for Governor Lamont at this posting. I work what's called coterminous with the governor, so as long as he's in office, I'm in office. Obviously, you can be fired because you're at the will of the governor. So if there's a problem or a cause, you do something bad, you can absolutely be terminated. So he's a very kind and very thoughtful person. He doesn't jump to conclusions quickly about things like that. But I'll stay as long as he'll have me. So. I'm here for at least the short term. As far as the long term goes, we'll see what happens. If he gets reelected, I think he will also be feeling pretty good. Those who support him and where he's at, I'll see. If he still wants me to come back, well, I'll definitely think about it and consider it.
Now, I saw it in doing some little bit of research for.
Wait, we were talking about me, right?
Yeah.
So we covered that. Okay, good. Yeah, no, that's good. We're covered. We topped off with the mayor, then here I am.
The mayor,
okay.
that's right.
I got worried.
So now,
now that I don't run for office anymore, I don't have to give my elevator speech with my biography all the time. So sometimes I forget to do that. So
exactly. Now, when you left your post as mayor, they obviously elected a mayor to replace you. Is that mayor still in office?
Well, so what happens is that we have a 21-member council. That's our elected body, a city council. Ooh. Yeah, and so the council president, it's kind of like the vice president. Right. So if the mayor leaves, the council president can become mayor. If he doesn't want the job, because it is an intensive job, and our city council is all voluntary. You don't get any remuneration. There's no pay for it.
You don't get paid.
No tax breaks, nothing like that. Oh. People do it for volunteer basis. So it's possible that a council president might say, I really don't want that job, or I have a job, and I'm making double what you'd make as mayor. But my council president for many years, his name was Joe Cavo, he said, yeah, I'll do it. So he took over, he finished out my term. Then there was an election. Mayor Esposito came in for a term, and then there was another, obviously we have 2-year terms, so there was another election, and Mayor Alves has been there since 2023.
Okay.
All right. So I'm already, it's good though, because there's only one other mayor behind me. So every time a mayor would pass, I would look at the mayor behind me, who's the next mayor, I go, you're next.
Yeah, right.
You're next, right? And now I got 2 people ahead of me, right? So I can look at them and say, you guys are next, or something like that.
Yeah, your number's about to be up, so
yeah.
be prepared. So I actually saw something in doing some research for tonight. I guess there's a loophole in the state with the gross earnings tax, and it's been reduced by $450,000.
That's possible, yeah.
Possible?
I'd have to go take a look at it.
Go take a look. And In Connecticut, what is the Department of Revenue Services looking to make up for the loss?
450 is literally a drop in the bucket, less than a drop in the bucket. It's a
All right.
molecule in the drop that goes in the bucket.
All right.
So we don't have to do anything to make that up. What we are doing, which is a good question because it leads me to talk a little bit about some of our new collection efforts.
Okay.
So, the Governor Lamont's belief is that we don't need more taxes, we need more taxpayers. Okay.
All right.
So we have something called the tax gap in Connecticut. The tax gap is about $1.3 billion. The tax gap is the amount of money that we should be collecting that we're not for a variety of reasons. Why does that happen? Think about people use a landscaper, they pay cash. Maybe they have a housekeeper, they pay cash. It's that whole underground economy that goes on.
Right.
We find it mostly in cash-based businesses, right? So by the time we're done at the end of the year of all of our collection efforts, we will collect of the 1.3 billion, about 700 million of that through audits and enforcement actions and things like that. But geez, that still leaves like $800 million out there, right? That's a lot of money. So we've started a couple of different new departments in my agency. One is the Small Business Center. So again, we're not there to harass you, but we are there to check to see that you know how to file your taxes, you know where to file them. It can be complicated. Picture if you're grinding all day as a landscaper and you're cutting grass and you're doing things at different houses, and then you got to go home at night and you got to file a sales tax return. That's a lot, right? So we're there to help you do that because it's too easy just to say, the heck with it, right? And the number one area we see people that get themselves in trouble is when they keep the sales tax they collect. We see this particularly in restaurants where the restaurant, the restaurateur gets behind a little bit. He's got to pay staff, he's got suppliers to pay, he starts keeping the sales tax and not remitting it to us, right? We can tell now through a lot of our algorithms and use of some AI pieces and things like that, if you're reporting everything you took in. We know that if you only put in if we look at what you're putting in and you don't put any cash in, we know that's probably about 35% out there cash that above what you're reporting that you're putting in your pocket. Right, so those are the kinds of areas that we're focusing in on, and it's really done very, very well. It's actually returned tens upon tens of millions of dollars to us. So when I say 450 is just a molecule in the drop in a bucket, we have so many new kind of cool things like that that help us get people to get compliant that we easily can collect that. That's an afternoon's work if less than that. That's one audit for us. But I just want to say that. We also recognize that you're a small business, you're just getting by. We're not going to walk in and say, we're going to take your house, we're going to take your bank account. What we are going to say is, look, man, first of all, you should be charging sales tax, and second of all, you need to remit it. Let me show you how you can do it quickly and easily, and we'll sit down with you. We visit the business. I myself was at an auto body shop 2 weeks ago, working with the owner of the auto body shop, showing him how to do it so that he doesn't get behind again.
Really?
And it wasn't a question of him not wanting to pay. It's time. We have to make systems that are easy to use, and we'll collect more dollars because of that. It's geeky, I know, but it's exciting.
Exactly. Now, what is the gross earnings tax?
The gross earnings tax is a gross. So taxes are collected in a variety of different ways, right? So one of the ways is that you can basically tax somebody on not pre any deductions, pre any adjustments that you would make in that. That's one way of doing it. And it seems it's an easier way because you don't have to add in all these different deductions when you go through for your filing. However, that references to a corporate, the gross earnings tax on the corporate filers, right? So we don't do that on local ones. But it's also interesting because we do that on things like alcohol, cigarettes, right? So if you sell cigarettes, rather than going to every single convenience store and liquor store and store that would sell cigarettes, we go to the distributor. So there's one tax. So now instead of collecting 50 returns, we collect one return. Think of like Amazon. Amazon delivers products from all over the world. Right. So if we had to go to every one of those manufacturers and say, hey, you owe sales tax, it'd be a nightmare. Instead, we just go to Amazon. You pay us for the stuff that you've delivered, even though you're not you're a facilitator, what we call a market facilitator. You're not actually making the product. And by the way, it's a big issue out here. Airbnb, VRBO, those are market facilitators as well. They pay us also, but instead of collecting every single little house that's out there, Airbnb pays us one check for the state. And then they can, obviously, in our audit, break it down into where they got it from and whether Pete's house is registered to be an Airbnb. They can show us all that. And it just makes collections a lot easier. So it's very similar to that process. Take away the deductions and just go on what somebody's grossing out. It's a lot easier. But it has its pitfalls.
Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
I'm down with it. Yeah,
All right,
let's
we'll
do
be
it.
right back.
Better Business Bureau is warning residents about Eastern Transportation and Rentals, a Coventry-based company accused of taking money for airport rides and never showing up. 24 travelers say they prepaid for rides to Boston, Logan, and JFK airports through owner Mitch Cloder, but were left stranded and out hundreds of dollars. Some say they were promised refunds that never came. The Connecticut Department of Transportation confirms the company does not have a valid livery permit or business license. Police in multiple towns have issued arrest warrants for Cloder. Now, if you need a ride service, always check a company's reputation at bbb.org. Ask to see their permit and insurance and avoid paying through peer-to-peer apps. Use a credit card instead. It offers more protection if something goes wrong. Don't let travel plans turn into trouble. Report scams anytime at bbb.org/scamtracker.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with DRS Commissioner Mark Boughton. Welcome back, sir.
Pete, I got to tell you, I mean, I know we're off topic here, but you're crushing it with your new studio. This is.
I'm trying.
I haven't been here since you had it. We just had the chairs.
I know.
And the flower pot, and I knocked over the flower one time, and it was like an issue. This is great. Looks beautiful.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
Better than Dennis' house or about the same?
Oh, forget about house. You got it all over him. You know? And plus, you're a better dresser. Tell him to take away those shoes and everything.
He's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Oh,
good friend of mine.
Yeah. He actually did my 500th episode.
Oh, you couldn't have a better
Couple
guest.
years
He's
ago.
a great interviewer, by the way.
He is.
Yeah, he's got skills. He really does.
He does.
Good man.
Yes. Now, how easy is it to file your income tax?
Well, I always recommend people, it depends on the complexity, but in Connecticut, it's very easy because we don't have a lot of deductions.
No.
Right? So, but I recommend people, and I'm not, any one of the providers that is out there, whether it's TurboTax, Intuit, or any of those companies, Intuit makes TurboTax, but you know what I'm saying, H&R Block, yeah. They're all very good, and they're all wired into our system.
Okay.
So, you know, we pretty much stand behind those. If you don't want to do that, you can always go right online to MyConnect, which is our right on our DS website. It's your portal.
Okay.
And you can do it yourself right there without having to pay for a paid system. The paid system will charge you $50 or whatever for the software package and all that stuff. We'll do it for free. Okay. So it's not a bad deal. It's a great system. It works well. Your federal return's a little more complicated to try and do that on the federal, you know, and I would recommend people would use some kind of system or go to an accountant. If you can't afford an accountant, then just use a system. But your local libraries, tremendous assistance in accessing documents and software and putting you in contact, as I mentioned before, with those with the VITA volunteers when they meet. And you can bring your stuff and just plop it down in front of them. Right. And they'll help you walk it through it. So that's probably the easiest way. But in Danbury, when I was mayor, I believe so much in VITA, and I had nothing to do with revenue collections, nothing to do with what I do now. I used to run 2 centers. I asked the team of retirees to set up 2 centers. So Danbury residents would call my office at the mayor's office. We would schedule an appointment for you. We used Western Connecticut State University's offices, and you could walk in and file all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And it worked out great. And we had one of the highest compliance rates of filing systems. Oh, yeah? Most people got refunds, so they were happy. Cool. We owe them money. Gotta give them the money back. I don't want to keep it.
No.
Right.
Absolutely.
Better in your pocket than ours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, how's the legislative session looking?
You know, it's interesting. So this is a short session. It goes from February
to June?
To February to May.
Oh,
and
I was wrong.
It's because it's an election year.
Right.
So under state law, you can't file bills that would make us change the state budget. The state budget is a biennium 2-year budget that was presented last year. Yep. Now the governor will come forward, and we're filming this on a Tuesday night. Yes. In February, I think it's 6th is the opening day. He'll give us the State of the State speech, and in that he'll have some revisions to the budget that you have to do every year. So even though it's a 2-year budget, because revenues vary And because certain areas you get more money than you thought, you didn't get enough money over here, you have to move money around. And there's been some challenges with the federal budget. As you know, some programs have been caught. And so particularly with healthcare, the governor wants to blend down some of the premium costs and some of those things using some of our surpluses. But as you know, we're going to run we'll hit $1 billion this year, I'm pretty confident, of a surplus. And that's due in part to some of these modified collection methods we've made. We haven't really added a lot of taxes. In fact, we cut taxes in 2024, in 2023 for the 2024 tax year. So it's really due to the fact that we're becoming more sophisticated in how we're going out and collecting them. And I think it's showing, it's making a difference, and it's bringing in more money. The economy's a little bit better, but we've washed through all that federal cash. Remember, everybody kept saying, oh, it's because of the federal cash and COVID money and all that stuff. That's all gone. Not just at the state level, but residents aren't getting checks anymore for that. So this is real bona fide economic output by businesses and residents that are causing our numbers to go up. That's a good thing. So there's some areas of concern, as there always are, but in general, I think you'll find our revenues will be strong. So the legislature will look at that. They'll want to spend more money on new programs. Unfortunately, they can't due to the fact that they're barred from really altering that 2-year budget too dramatically. But I'm sure there'll be some discussions about what programs that were cut by the federal government do we want to backstop with some of those state surplus dollars. The governor has latitude up to, I think, about $500 million. And, but that goes quick, right? You already put $150 million in healthcare.
Exactly.
So it's something we'll have to look at.
Now, what about car taxes?
It's funny you talked about it. I hate the car tax. As the mayor, I used to hate the car tax. It's the most difficult tax to collect. It makes people so angry. That and your water bill, by the way. I'd raise property taxes by 2%. Nobody would say, boo. They get a $2 increase of the water bill, they'd be screaming at me, and my hair would be on fire. Oh, chill. So, but the car tax annoys me for a variety of different reasons. The legislature made a couple of changes 2 years ago. They went from the NDA book, or the blue book for valuation, to MSRP, manufacturer. And the thought was that people are paying. What they thought was that people are paying less for the used cars, not more, and therefore let's use that because that'll give people a break on their auto tax. What we found is that the used car market was exploding, and so those prices went up. MSRP prices went up, and they were paying more taxes on their auto tax. So that was one of those unintended consequences. But what I have told people, and we don't administer this, but being a former mayor, people call me and ask. There is a depreciation number blended in every year your car gets older. So unlike the blue book, it'll slowly depreciate, and you'll catch up to where what you should be paying and what's fair. But having, and I'm going to talk on an aside here, but I hear of people taking 8-year loans for their cars, 10-year loans for their cars. Don't do it, man. Go buy a used car. Do not do that. First of all, cars are being built now not to last 300,000 miles. That's a rarity. And chances are you will not outlive the lifetime of loan, and you get way upside down quickly with the depreciation of your car versus what you owe on it. Anyways, that's nothing. So what are some of the ideas and thoughts? I know CCM and our folks there have had some ideas about this. COST is a Connecticut organization of small towns.
Betsy Guerra.
Yeah, Betsy. They've had some thoughts about this. All of us agree, former mayors, current mayors, first selectmen, we all agree it's a pain in the neck to collect. And we've got to figure out a better system. The rub becomes for Danbury, and I only know Danbury, but I'm sure it's similar out here in some of the other towns, New London, places like that. Danbury, it's about $14 million a year we collect off auto taxes. So if you just wipe that off the books, that's a big hit. So then the argument was, well, let's just get rid of that, and then cities and towns can just add it to their mill rate, right? Well, that's like 3 mills in Danbury. You want to add 3 mil increase to your, it's not really fair, right? So there's got to be a way, a better way to do this. The governor's actually asked me to take a look at this and figure out, not for this session, but for 2027, to look at, what are some options or thoughts out there about how we can slim this down or even get rid of the tax. I mean, everybody agrees it's bizarre. And let me just give you a couple quick examples.
Go.
Got a second. Okay.
Go.
I once got a call in my office. This was not that long ago. It was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, before I left being mayor, from a gentleman who I'd known my whole life. He had moved to Arizona to be with his kids. He's in his 80s. He has a bill. He calls me up and says, Mayor, I got a bill here for my car tax. It's $1,500. And I said, Joe, I thought you moved to Arizona. He goes, I did. He goes, but you guys have chased me out here and sent me a bill. Tax collector's doing his job. I can't get upset about that. I said, okay. And I said, I'm being nice. I said, if I remember right, you're like 83, 84? He goes, I'm 86. I said, okay.
No.
I said, and he goes, I'll pay the principal. The principal was like $300, and the bill was from like 1998. He goes, I just sold the car in 1998, never got recorded. Now it keeps accruing interest. And I go, well, listen, Joe, the interest is based on state statute. I can't help you there. It's 18% per year. I said, but I tell you what, you're 86? Yeah. Are you ever coming back to Connecticut? No. I said, don't pay it. He goes, what? I go, just don't pay it. And he goes, I can't do that. I said, you can. Don't pay it. Exactly. I'm telling you, don't pay it.
Don't do it.
And sure enough, he sent me a check for $1,800 to my office. Yeah, he paid it. But good on him. But, my point being that I felt horrible telling this person that they had to pay this. Yeah, it's just terrible. So it's a bad tax. It's tough to collect. It drives the public nuts. And also the recognition of antique cars and how they're charged, and whether or not, if you have a car, you can have a car sitting in a pasture that's 30 years old, and it gets to a certain point where the state then looks at that as an antique car, and it jumps from $50 a year to $500 a year. So there's just a lot of stuff like that that's got to be looked at. But it's a conundrum, and I think that the cities and towns are always super wary about any of those things because it means revenue to them, which I completely understand, which is part of my job. So we're going to take a look at it and see if we can come up with some thoughts. And we're not going to do this, though, without input from CCM and costs and spending a lot of time doing due diligence over the next year to say, how about this? Does this work? How does this work? And seeing if we can't figure something out and look at other states, counties, and see what they're doing.
Now, speaking of CCM, have you seen our friend lately?
Yeah, I saw Joe about 6 months ago. Though. I did not go to the CCM, I was telling you off camera, the CCM conference. Which I always do. It just was on I think it was on a Friday this year.
I think so.
It was problematic for me to get to, it's at Foxwoods, and I just couldn't get there. So, but I like to go, walk around, see a lot of old friends, meet some new friends. It's a good program. Connecticut Conference of Municipality is a great organization.
It is.
It takes a little bit of a rap sometimes, I get it. But it's fully worth it. There are services there that I would use all the time when I was the leader of a city, and I'm sure your first selectman or mayor does as well for those folks that are watching.
And the other wonderful organization that you and I actually know personally as well is Betsy Gara from Cost.
Cost is great too, and that came out of the fact that a lot of people are members of Cost and of CCM. Right. And the two are not mutually exclusive. You can be a member of both. And so the small towns have, unique challenges. A lot of them are infrastructure related. I spend a lot of time talking to folks, even out here, about sewer plants and potential new sewer lines and things that they need to grow their economy. A little bit different than what the big cities have. But they always come together on sort of the major issues of the day to kind of get as close as they can to being on the same page. So it works out pretty well. And Betsy does a phenomenal job.
She's a
great person.
She is. And then you and I have another mutual friend, First Selectman Carl Fortuna of the town of Old Saybrook.
He's still here. He's still swinging.
He is still here.
He's probably been in office, 16 years now? 15 years?
I think so.
Yeah, he's done a great job. And congratulations to him and his longevity. And look,
he's a good guy.
Politics has gotten so weird nowadays.
No kidding.
That his ability to stay relevant and to just focus on filling the pothole, which is all you got to do, has been amazing. And that's what gets him reelected, because he's results oriented. Look, I just want to get the job done. Yeah. And if people respect that, and they'll send you back to office time and time again.
Absolutely. So what else is going on in the state we haven't covered yet?
Right. So we're in the process of looking at budgetary issues, as you mentioned, and where we're going to land on that, and what is the impact of the federal government. A lot of changes have gone on the infrastructure side. They pretty much, you could say they defunded the bipartisan infrastructure law. It's down to not nearly as robust as it was. A lot of the nuts and bolts projects that we had going are still going to be completed. Right. For example, the bridge at New London, they're going to complete that. That's we got a $300 million grant for that I helped fight for and work with Congressman Courtney on. So those kinds of things are still a go. But other projects, we had ready to land in the state about $20 million worth of charging stations. That's all been put on hold right now. Right. The wind turbines have been put on hold right now. Yeah, and I get where the president's going on wind power.
Right.
They make a lot of good points. The problem is we're about 89% finished out there, right?
Right.
So at this point, you might as well just finish the project. Just don't start any new ones if you don't like it, Mr. President, right? Because it will generate a significant amount of electricity. We need generation in Connecticut. That's why our prices are so high. No community will let a power plant be built in their area, right? We all live very close. We're very dense. People, I don't want to get, there was, I think, a natural gas plant in Killingly that went down, right?
I think so.
Years ago that was going to be built. There was, I know one in New Milford many, many years ago that was going to be built. There was one in Oxford, finally did get built. And you can tell folks out here, the one in Oxford that got built, the first selectman, it's been up now for about 15 years, has lowered taxes every single year because that natural gas plant spits off so much tax dollars that he doesn't have to charge as much to his taxpayers. So now they love it, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The natural gas plants are very clean. Obviously, the coal-fired ones are, you wouldn't want to live near one of those. But I've been out there, this thing is quiet, it's clean, it's big, and they're even smaller now because the technology keeps improving. That's a challenge. I think, and I know that we've had discussions about potentially adding some reactors to Millstone, some of the new ones that are way more technologically proficient and efficient and safe compared to what the technology used to be. If you see they did that in Georgia and some other states, I mean, Georgia, they're powering 1.5 million homes. They turned them on last year, and just like that, boom. So we need to figure out how to generate more electricity if you really want to see prices drop. The other piece of that is we need to improve the grid. And think about, I live in a city.
Yes.
I look at a lot of the buildings in our city, some of them go back to the 1800s and even before that, right? The wires on them are from the turn of the 20th century, right? Think about those delivery systems are old.
Yeah.
And they lose power, right? You always know during the summer you can see the heat radiating off of the wires. That's electricity power being lost, right, to inefficient grid and inefficient infrastructure through there. You replace that stuff with modern equipment, you don't lose that, and now you have more power to disperse. Then you have more supply, price drops. Less supply, price goes up. So we got work to do in that thing, and the governor knows that. He's obviously has embarked on a reconfiguration of PURA, which makes a lot of these decisions and works closely in the energy sector. We're stuck with Eversource, They and UI are going to be doing our power. It's the way it is. We've got to figure out a way how to be strategic partners with them and to get some of these upgrades done. Another thing, guys, if I'm boring you, just let me know.
No, you're good.
Smart meters are incredibly important to the grid.
Right.
So a smart meter will tell you when Mark Boughton leaves his house, his power consumption drops, right? And typically he leaves every day when I go to work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Pete Mezzetti's home from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. He goes out at night.
Right.
So the smart meter knows to shift power over to you from me during the day, and at night shift it back to me when I get home and take away from you. You can balance power in the grid that way.
Oh, that's cool.
Across the state if we all had smart meters. That's not that expensive, but it's going to mean a $20 increase to your electric bill each month.
Each month, right.
Right. But you're going to maybe even save it because you're going to have more supply and the price of electricity will drop. The challenge that we're having now is you see a lot of those solar panels on people's roofs all over the place? Yeah.
Yes.
They're great, except even in Western Mass right now, which is part of our grid structure, right? It's part of the, not the delivery system, but the transmission system. Can't get that power into Connecticut because we get, just like a traffic jam, we get power jams.
Right.
Because they can't carry it. There's too much power. They actually have to reroute it. You can't store power. I mean, I think Elon Musk is working on that with the battery packs and stuff like that. We may get there, but it's just a commodity that will, dissipate. So, and also if it backs up, people can start getting shocks, right? So you got to be careful.
And you don't want that.
Right. So there's a lot of work to be done there. It's a fascinating space, and I wouldn't, they don't do it. I've encouraged Eversource for the public to open up their training facility and do quick little, 2-hour little tours of what they do. They have they call it their war center, whatever you want to call it. It's better than anything you see in NORAD. I mean, you got to see this thing set up on the wall. It's incredible.
Oh yeah.
And they're ready, and they can tell you exactly where they're having problems with their power, but because again, some of these old lines are out there, so the equipment's out there, they can't tell you everything. But it's really incredible. And their training facility, they do natural gas too.
Yeah.
You know, they have you climbing poles and learning how to do that, and then you have how to hook up gas lines and not blowing up the entire town and things like that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just a fascinating tour. And I said, you guys, part of what you need to do is get out in the public and share. You don't need to necessarily sponsor every festival that's out there, everything else. Let the public come down one day a year or a couple of days. Let them see what you do. Let them climb a pole, put nets around it. I don't know, do something. Let them sort of understand a little bit how difficult the job you have is and how you get it done all the time. And then I don't think they feel so bad about paying them. But there's some problems with that. We know the public benefits charge has been a big debate, a big concern, and things like that.
Now, do they have a PIRA commissioner yet, or?
They do. Of course, you're going to ask me his name, and I forgot.
No, I'm not going to ask you his
All
name.
right,
All I'm
but
going to
it's
ask
okay.
you is if they
Yeah.
have a PIRA commissioner.
Yeah.
I know
They're in the process of, they have completed that out. The appointments have been made. They have not been approved by the legislature, but they're working and starting to set direction about what they want to do.
and that's probably going to be in February when the legislature
That's right.
meets, or are they going to do it in special session?
I don't think they'll need to do a special session. We're coming up. The session starts next week, so they'll get it done during regular session.
Okay.
I think I think everybody's at work right, as far as I know. So it'll be exciting.
I'm sure you'll be up there opening day.
Yes,
Of course you will.
There's always something to do, and got a pretty good speech ready to go. So it'll be interesting hearing the boss. And obviously, look, we're on different. I'm a Republican, he's a Democrat, but we all made a conscious decision. Let's fill the pothole. Let's work to make Connecticut better, and that's what we both focus in on every day. And he's a good friend, and I admire him. Great family man, and he's getting the job done, man.
Yeah, no. And it's a re-election year for him.
It is. He's running
Re-election year for you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you at the last show, I said, it'll be up to him whether I stay on or not. Right. It's been a great experience for the last 6 years. If I do, I serve at his pleasure. So it'll be up to him to make that decision, and I'm honored either way. It's not, people are like, oh, aren't you going to be upset? Like, no. I mean, you don't take this job thinking you got a golden ticket for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You have to perform. You have to do the job. If he wants to make a change, you have to respect that. And it's not a reflection on you. It's just a reflection that, he wants to mix up his cabinet. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
So I'll find something to do. I'm not worried. Maybe I'll come co-host with you.
Yeah, hey, there you go. And we'll hang out with Joe DeLong and Carl Fortuna.
Can't beat that. Good company there.
And Dennis House.
And Dennis House.
Oh.
Good stuff.
Oh, great stuff. Now, how closely do you guys work with CCM?
So I use them, I'm used to using them because I use them as mayor.
Right.
So I talk to them all the time about all kinds of stuff. A lot of it is the intersection of, cities and towns and the state policy and the conflicts that go on. And sometimes I'll help mediate disputes, between groups of mayors and first selectmen or a problem or whatever. And I'll just pick up the phone and start making some calls and try to explain the view of, from sitting behind the desk as a mayor or a first selectman, right? Carl has different challenges than, say, a legislator does who lives in, Derby, right? I'm not picking on Derby, but across the state, right? They may not know what some of the challenges are, particularly in the smaller towns. So it's important that I view my past role as a municipal official as a way to educate folks, both in the state government and elected officials. Say, well, wait a minute, this is how these folks look at it, and understand, they're worried about the revenue may never get replaced. We've got to figure out a system that will give them confidence that they're going to get their money because. I know from the years that I was mayor, we got burned in the past.
Yes.
And then I had to go raise taxes, and everybody gets upset at you, and you try explaining that. Well, the state didn't give me what they, it looks like you're trying to get defensive and everything. So we've got to do a better job at that kind of stuff. And I think that that's been helpful. I think to give folks some insight about how. And people have called me, and department heads and commissioners call me all the time to ask, how would you view this if you were sitting in your chair, and. Sometimes they go forward with a policy. A lot of times they don't. But that's okay.
Right. And I'm sure you know Brian O'Connor from CCM.
Yeah, he's a former state rep.
Yes, he's a personal friend of mine. I actually worked on Brian's campaign with Lon Seidman.
Well, he's a good man. I think we served together too, Brian and I did. My last year was his first year in, I think.
I think so.
When he got elected. But he's a good guy. And
Brian's awesome.
Yeah. And again, what we have to do in this crazy environment. It's just fine. Everybody that just wants, and I keep saying this as an example, everybody just wants to fill the pothole, fix the problem, right? So try to keep all of the personal opinions about all the really controversial stuff out and just talk about, are the kids going to school? Good. School buses run on time? That's good. Can you drive down the street and not get assaulted? Yes, that's good. That's a good step, you know, and work your way through all of these problems that everybody can agree on and stop worrying about all the stuff we don't agree on. And, you know, everybody's, both sides are, I'm not saying you're not entitled to your opinion, you are. And there's strong arguments on many of these issues on both sides. But we spend so much time arguing about that stuff, we don't ever do the things that count in government. And the government can work. It does work.
It does.
If you focus on getting stuff done. If you're always trying to score points off the other side, it's a waste of time. But I worked with great Republicans. I worked with so many good Democrats that we just got it done. You know, when I was mayor, my stuff would go through our city council 90% on a unanimous basis, right? That means bipartisan, right? Democrats, everybody would vote for. One, I explained it thoroughly, what I was trying to do.
Right.
And two, they would come, I give them time, you got to give people space. But most times when you do that, they come to the conclusion that, he's probably making the right decision, even if you don't like it. Like some there are things as mayor, I'm like, that's ridiculous, we have to do this. But guys, we got to do this.
Exactly.
And they would, you know, they would pretty much support me. I always felt very supported by Republicans and by Democrats, even though I wasn't a Democrat. They were always really good to me. And that's why I stayed 20 years, because we all got along.
Exactly.
Right. Didn't always agree.
No.
That's okay. And I would let them, listen, you have a different viewpoint? Share it with us, please. Let us think about it.
Exactly. Let's talk about
And
it.
I think people appreciated that.
Let's sit down and talk about it. Let me hear your ideas, and let's see what we can do to fix the
Right.
problem.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff.
Now, as far as thoughts of the upcoming legislative session,
Yeah, there always will be. There's already hundreds of bills filed right now as we sit here.
Okay.
Most of them will die in the heap of not bad ideas, just not the right time. And timing is everything, particularly during an election cycle. People don't necessarily want to put things forward that are what they call talkers, controversial, right? So there's those that'll go on. There's other people, and this I always found fascinating, and they play the long game. Right. So what they'll do is they'll get a bill, and I'm going to give you a good example on this. They'll get a bill, they'll get it introduced.
Yeah.
They'll get it to the committee.
Right.
They'll try to get it raised so they can have a public hearing.
Yes.
They'll have the public hearing, and then it won't go anywhere. That's for year one.
Okay.
Year two, they'll introduce it again. They'll get it to the committee. They'll get it raised. They'll get a public hearing. They'll get it voted out of committee. Maybe they'll get it to the floor.
Okay.
Maybe they won't get it to the floor. Maybe they'll just get it on the calendar. Maybe they'll get it through the House.
Right.
And it keeps going on that year after year after year until eventually they get what they want. A great example of that is cannabis. I remember sitting in the well of the House one time, and a group of legislators came up to me, and it was funny because I wasn't there that long, but I guess both sides like my spin on things because I'm a centrist.
Right.
I wasn't center right. So you know, we really think we should be legalizing cannabis, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you want to do what? You want to legalize marijuana? Are you out of your mind? And I'd sit there and laugh. I go, there's no way that's ever going to happen. I'm totally opposed. I don't want anything to do with it. No, 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 no. But you see these folks? They were starting this back in 1999.
Right.
They were starting this. And they played this out for, what, 20 years? Right. And what did we get in 2019? Legalized marijuana.
Yes.
Right. Because they never stopped pushing. They slowly brought more people in line and more people. And you know, eventually they got the medical, right? That was the camels. And I'm not saying medical doesn't have its benefits.
Right.
I talked to a gentleman about 3 weeks ago that was telling me about what it does for his Parkinson's. That there's a certain kind of Parkinson's where you know, he doesn't shake when he uses some kind of cannabis, and I didn't catch it all, but basically as a medical card.
Right.
So I'm not saying that they shouldn't have access to that, but I'm saying that was a start. People saw medical and said, oh, it's not so bad. It's not, you know, it's a big deal, right?
Right.
And then it expanded. Now we have recreational use as well. So that's one great example. Publicly financed campaigns.
Right.
There's another one. People came up to me and said, don't you think the public should pay for your campaign? I said, are you out of your mind? Pay for my campaign. I don't want taxpayer money shouldn't be going to pay for politicians to go out and put up signs and buy ads and do all that stuff.
Exactly.
And every year they would come to me, oh, but you like good government. I go, I love good government. I go, I just don't think I should have to pay for that. It's ridiculous. And eventually, what did we get? Governor Rao, she took through and got approved publicly financed campaigns.
That's right.
So, you know, that was in 2000. It took 7 years, but they got it done. So there are out there people right now in the legislature that are playing the long game. They're introducing stuff. And what are some of those issues? I think it's out of my lane a little bit, but I think the right to die legislation, where you can decide if you want to commit. If you haven't, I hate saying suicide is such a harsh word, but if you want to end your life because you or have some kind of terminal illness or whatever, there's some states now where that's legal, or they're thinking about it. That's been a long play, right? There's people that come out every year, they testify about it, and then they get it a little bit farther down the line, and people are thinking about it a little bit more because some countries now are doing this. So that would be a good example of that long game where it seems preposterous in the beginning, but at the end, after 20 years, you're like, holy smokes, these folks did this. So there's people now that are gearing up for that fight. So, you may hear a lot of talk. You'll hear a lot of bills that are proposed that do a lot of crazy things to our income tax, do a lot of crazy things to car tax or whatever. They're never going to get adopted, but they're playing the long game and they're getting things started. So I expect a lot of that stuff. And I give people a hint out there that are watching. If you want to know what folks are thinking about, what legislators are thinking about, I always go through the newest Office of Legislative Research reports. We call them OLR. And in there, it'll be, State Representative Mezzetti called and wants to know, what is the average car tax in the state of Connecticut? So now I would read those things, and I go, I know, Pete Mezzetti's thinking about playing with the car tax. So I would be looking for a car tax bill from you. So you always, when I was a legislator, I would always one up on everybody because I knew exactly what they were looking at, what reports they were asking for, which meant which way the bills that they were proposing were going to go.
Cool. Mark Boughton, we're out of time.
Sorry, man.
Thanks for some time.
I talked too much. I apologize.
Not a problem. We'll see you next time.
After filing period.
Okay.
All right.
You got it. On behalf of Mark Boughton, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next week. The preceding program was brought to you in part by